Welcome everyone. I am Christine Benninger. I'm the CEO here at Guide Dogs for the Blind, and I want to welcome everyone in our studio audience. Thank you for being here, and also our virtual audience. So everybody turn around and kind of wave to our virtual audience. It's great to have everybody here. We're filming from our California campus today. I also want to introduce Thea. Thea's in front of me here. She is an official ambassador dog for Guide Dogs for the Blind. She is my girl. She's absolutely perfect, and I'm always so grateful to have her with me whenever I do these presentations. But I am so thrilled that we're going to be talking about our apprentice program today. So our apprentice program is absolutely fundamental to our ability to execute on our mission. It's something that pretty much happens behind the scenes. Most people aren't aware of it. And so we thought it would be an absolutely perfect topic to talk about today. And I'm going to start with a little bit of bragging about this program. And I'm also going to be bragging about one of the people who's up here who has also been fundamental in the design of that program, and that's Amy Gunn, who's to my right. But Guide Dogs for the Blind actually has the really most rigorous and quite honestly the best apprentice program anywhere in the world. And I'll say that again, anywhere in the world. Our program, while it is not necessarily easy, and Kate is going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but produces some of the best trained guide dog mobility instructors anywhere in the world. And in fact, other schools come from all over actually to learn from us. So I am very, very proud about this program and so excited to be able to, delve into it actually today. At any one point in time, we have between 20 to 25 apprentices within our program. That program costs us $2.5 million a year to run. So I'm going to come back to that a little bit later and talk about that a little bit more as well. But as I said, it's absolutely fundamental to the success of our organization and our ability to execute on our mission. Our apprentice program not only focuses on training our apprentices to train dogs, but also to train our clients, and then to train our clients and dogs together, right? And to create these amazing teams. And we have a couple of our clients here in the audience today who are great ambassadors for showing everybody what an amazing team actually looks like. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start, and that's that there will be time at the end of our discussion for questions. So for those of you in our virtual audience, if you have a question, if you could please type it into the chat. And for those of you in our studio audience, if you have a question, just raise your hand, and our friend Mr. Larry will be coming around with a microphone. So we want to make certain that we get to everybody's questions if we can today. So on that note, I do want to introduce my two panelists. I'm so honored to have them here. To my right is Amy Gunn. She's our apprentice program manager. And as I mentioned earlier, Amy has been fundamental in the design of this program and the execution of this program. And then to my left is Kate Darty. Kate is one of our incredible apprentices, and really excited to hear from Kate today. So I'm going to start with Miss Amy. Sure. All right, I've got to put my glasses on because I can't see otherwise. So Being a guide dog mobility instructor requires a unique set of skills that we can't just hire for off the street. Can you talk about what we're looking for when hiring apprentices and why the apprentice program is so necessary?
Sure, Chris.
Thank you.
One of the really cool things about this career is just truly how specialized it is. I think when I started this career, I really didn't know what I was getting into. So this is an opportunity to share that and hopefully do some passive recruiting while we're here today. So as I said, the career is very specialized, and it actually is almost like a combination of several different careers. So we've got canine welfare and animal training. There's a large element to this job that involves teaching people, which I think is a surprise because it's like guide dogs for the blind, you know, but there's this whole people side of things. And then there's also this element of working with clients who are visually impaired in order to enhance their mobility. And that in and of itself is a very specialized career. You can go get a graduate degree in that program as well. So, but we pull elements from that, and we teach our apprentices about that as well. So when people are coming into the program, thanks to the recruiting efforts of our HR department, most of our apprentices have some kind of a background in those elements. Maybe not the full combo, but most folks come with some kind of a background in animal training. It might be exotic animals. In fact, we have had many people that were studying to be zookeepers. And then animal welfare and working with people in some capacity, for sure. We have a lot of apprentices that may have started their career at GDB as canine welfare technicians, taking care of our dogs when they're in for formal training. And then many apprentices also have a background in puppy raising, whether that's for Guide Dogs for the Blind or also other service dog organizations. So that's what they come to us with. But really, there is no graduate degree program or undergrad degree. You can't do an internship, and you can't do a trade school program that's really going to fully prepare somebody to do this combination of work. And so we have to train apprentices internally, and that's actually true for guide dog schools all over the world. You just have to train your own staff, and so that's why the apprentice program exists.
So can you tell us just a little bit about what that training process is for apprentices?
Sure. It's a long answer, but I'm going to try to keep it. And I'm kind of looking at Kate because she's living it right now. So there's lots of different components to the apprentice program. And first of all, there's this physical aspect to the job that I think is also kind of a surprise when people start. The instructors can walk up to 8 miles a day, every day. Sometimes you're doing a half marathon in a day. And so this is a really great job for people that want to work outdoors and they don't mind doing it rain or shine. And so we have an apprentice physical conditioning program that is designed by a company called Briotics. And they work with apprentices on a confidential basis, and it's all very customized, and they help them transition into the role to meet the physical rigors of the job. So after they go through that program, Briotics also continues to support them throughout their career, which is a wonderful program that we have, and it all starts with the apprentices. And then we also have an academic component to the program, and this is the component that actually teaches apprentices that specialized work of working with clients who are blind and visually impaired. And we have a really comprehensive online learning program, and there's classroom sessions and practical sessions with certified orientation and mobility specialists. But wait, there's more.
Yeah, there is a lot more.
And probably the most intensive work that apprentices do will be the on-the-job training with mentor instructors. And this is the day-to-day work that they do, working with the dogs and working with the clients. And so mentor instructors are qualified instructors who teach apprentices the 4 core job functions. And honestly, I could really spend all day and hours talking about each element of those, but I'm just going to list them here. So, of course, there's training guide dogs. And then apprentices also learn how to work with people in our class programs and partner them with guide dogs. And then a couple of times a year, the instructors will travel all over the United States and Canada and support established teams in their home areas, and we call that work field work. And then as a component of that travel piece, apprentices also learn how to assess applicants for GDB programs. So as you can hear, there's a ton to learn in this program. And anytime you're working with dogs and people, there's also an art to that. So it's not just academics and the technical skills. So the mentor instructors also teach that art of being an instructor in addition to the technical skills. And when people are, applying to become an apprentice, they're like, what am I getting myself into? And so I kind of describe it like a paid graduate degree program. And so apprentices are working all day, and then they're studying in evenings and weekends, and then there's a lot of skill assessments. And so, as you can imagine, the learning curve is very complex. And what I mean by that too is that sometimes the learning curve is really steep, and an apprentice has to learn a lot of complex skills very rapidly. But then also, a lot of things take practice in this line of work, and specifically we need variety. So it takes time to have the opportunities to work with a variety of dogs and work with lots of different people who have different learning styles, and also to experience many different scenarios in the field, because that's where some of our most creative work comes from, where we learn how to offer solutions to teams that are in the field. So that's a lot going on. And as you can imagine, it's a really big investment. It's an investment not only on the side of Kate and her mentors, but also on the side of donors, who support the program and fund it over time. And it's also, I think, helpful to think about, why is that investment so big? And as I said, this line of work is very specialized, and it also has really high stakes. When you think about the type of work that Guide Dogs for the Blind does, we are pairing dogs and humans to go out into this really complex world that is only getting more dynamic by the day, and we're supporting them in becoming safe and independent travelers. And so with high stakes comes really high performance standards for our staff. And it's also, I think, worth sharing that we also meet and sometimes exceed the standards that the International Guide Dog Federation has set forth for educational standards for the program. So we're really proud of that.
I love listening to Amy when she talks about this program. You're always so inspirational. I mean that, Amy. So tell us a little bit about then what happens after an apprentice graduates into becoming a guide dog mobility instructor, a qualified guide dog mobility instructor.
Oh, I love that question, Chris. I'm smiling a lot because Kate is actually in the home stretch, and she's coming. Yes. She's going to be completing the program soon, and in some cases, like in academic programs, that would be the end, and I wouldn't get to hang out with Kate anymore. But that's not really true in this line of work. So after someone becomes qualified, they can go on to become mentor instructors. And then they can also go on to fulfill roles in other parts of the organization, particularly in roles that specialize in working with clients. And so some examples of that might be a specialist in our support center or a field service manager. And those folks are stationed all over the country, and they support teams and they coordinate the support for teams in the United States and Canada. And then other instructors go on to fulfill leadership roles. So they become directors of programs, supervisors, managers, and that's the career path that I took. So I'm really excited to see what Kate, does in her future as well.
Me too.
One of the things that I'm always struck by is the fact that we're tasking our apprentices and then our guide dog mobility instructors to take two unique beings, right, and make them into a seamless team. And when I listen to you talk, it's not an easy task at all, because we each come with our own set of idiosyncrasies, right? Whether you're a four-legged or a two-legged, I probably have a lot more of those idiosyncrasies. But, dealing with those idiosyncrasies and then creating this seamless team. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how that's done? And it's probably more, about this art that you talked about. It's not so much the science, but the art.
Yeah, there's definitely an art to it. I think it's helpful to think about two sides of the harness. So I'm going to describe what the dogs need to learn, and then what the clients need to learn, and how the apprentices and instructors are involved in that. So when we think about what the dogs are trained to do, I have to start by giving a lot of gratitude and credit to our volunteer puppy raisers, because it's thanks to the work that they do that these dogs come in for formal training, being very well socialized, and they are eager and brave learners, and they're ready to go out in the world and learn these really complex skills. So the types of things that Kate will teach the dogs to do are things like, well, first we got to teach them how to pull in a harness. And when you think about it, that's actually kind of the opposite of what most dog trainers are doing, right?
Right.
So that in and of itself is a unique skill. So the dogs learn to pull into a harness, and they also learn how to comply with requests, such as left and right and forward. And they also learn how to navigate around obstacles and how to stop at elevation changes like stairs and curbs. And they also learn how to target things like stairs and escalators, elevators, and other things that a client might like to find. The dogs are also taught how to not comply with a request when it's not safe to do so. And this is called intelligent disobedience. And this is actually what distinguishes guide dogs from a lot of other service dogs. It's a very unique ability, and it's a complex skill to train. And so the dogs also, when you think about it, are going to be asked to, or trained to, do a lot of independent decision making, without input from their handler. They need to respond to really dynamic changes in the environment, and they also need to learn how to avoid hazards, such as a car maybe pulling out of a driveway, or the drop off at a subway train platform. So there's a lot to learn with the dogs.
A lot to learn.
Yeah. And then when we look at the other side of the harness, and we're talking about clients, so when someone comes in to work with a guide dog, first and foremost, the instructors are going to teach the person how to live and care for a guide dog as a companion. And so they're going to learn how to meet the dog's physical and emotional needs. And we even have clients that come into our programs that have never even had a pet dog before. And so a lot of that foundational skill training also needs to be included. And then it's a whole separate thing to teach a client how to partner with guide dog as a mobility aid. And so what instructors are doing in that sense is they're building on the skills that are initially taught by orientation and mobility specialists. Things like using the senses to know where you are in space and where you want to go, and planning how you're going to get there. And so, like I said, that's a whole other skill in and of itself. And ultimately, the instructors are teaching the clients how to reinforce their dog's decision making, good boy, good girl, and also use their orientation skills to make sure that the team is on track along the route.
No easy task, right?
It's not
no easy task. So another question, actually, that I get asked all the time is, how do you do the matching, right? So we've trained our dogs. We know that we have clients that will soon be coming into class. How do we decide who to pair with who?
Ooh, that's a great question. So this also relates to the art and science, definitely. So the process really begins with our application process. So when admissions and a client engage in that process, there's a lot of information exchange. And then instructors will go and meet the client in their home area and do an interview. And so at that point, they're gathering more information, and the client is sharing more about their lifestyle and the environments that the client and the team will be working in. They're also learning about the client's preferences. Maybe they want a particular breed of dog like Thea, or a color or size, or maybe a certain personality trait. And the instructors are also taught to ask those good questions, but also really listen. And they're also taught how to use props, such as a empty guide dog harness, in order to simulate guide dog travel and assess a client's dog handling abilities. They're looking for orientation and mobility skills, and the dogs also aren't perfect, so they're also assessing a client's ability to monitor the dog's work and regain their focus if necessary. And so, all that being said, there's an art to that too. And there's some intuition. And clients also might say there's actually a little bit of magic in there with regards to the timing. And when people ask me about that element too, I do like to say that I don't think the magic's necessarily coming directly from the instructors, but I think we're listening and we're facilitating the process.
So I'm a huge believer that there's a little bit of magic in every single pairing. And I'll just share a story about something that I just learned about actually a few weeks ago. I was actually up on the Oregon campus. I was having dinner with our clients. I was speaking with one of our clients who was back at Guide Dogs getting her third guide from us. And she, amazing woman, was talking about how grateful she is to Guide Dogs for the Blind, that her first two guides were pretty incredible, and she was training with her third guide who was pretty incredible as well. But that, and I'm hoping I can get through this without shedding a tear here, but she talked about the fact that her father was instrumental in her obtaining her first guide. She wasn't certain whether she, wanted to get a guide dog or not. Her father, whom she was extremely close with, had encouraged her to get her guide dog. And after she got her first guide dog, within a few weeks, she was home. Her dad and her brother were actually in the garden planting strawberries. And her father, as he was planting strawberries, died of a heart attack right then. And because of that, strawberries had always been symbolic to her of her dad. In fact, she had a tattoo on her of a strawberry before coming into class this third time. It was very cute. On one hand, she had her nails painted with strawberries, and on the other hand, it was painted with paws. And guess what the name of her dog is? Strawberry. So, I told you I wasn't going to get through this without crying. Anyways, that's a good example of the magic. There was no way any of us knew that story. There was no way that any of us could have planned that. And yet, the perfect pairing, right? With a touch of magic. So, I've got to. Sorry, Amy and I talked about this earlier. Are you able to get through that, Chris? I'm not certain. Anyways, thank you, Amy. As I said, it's always so inspirational listening to Amy and have her talk about our apprentice program. So welcome, Kate. We're thrilled to have you here. Kate is, as Amy had just recently mentioned, is in sort of the last stages of her apprentice program. But maybe you can start, Kate, just talking just a little bit about your background, and also why you chose Guide Dogs for the Blind, why you chose this profession, and why you chose Guide Dogs for the Blind.
Absolutely. So my name is Kate, and this is Dover. So I am originally from Nashville, Tennessee. So yes, I do love country music. And I went to school at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And I got my degree in animal science with an industry concentration, which basically means a business minor. And actually a lot of other people in my degree actually went on to run dairy farms. So it just goes to show that there's like a huge range, like Amy said, of all of the different backgrounds that the instructors and apprentices have. And throughout college, I had a lot of cool experience working with, I did an internship at our Knoxville Zoo, and I got a lot of experience training exotic birds there. So, a lot of cool background, and also educating the public through our keeper talks that we did. So, and then after college, I did a lot of, during and after college, I did a lot of kind of basic obedience training with dogs, which was such a cool experience. But I was kind of looking for, the next step. I wanted to be able to feel like I was making a difference, and I wanted to work a little bit more with people while still working with dogs. And, I started looking into the service dog industry and the guide dog industry, and it felt like the perfect next step for me. And so I was researching all of the different guide dog schools, across the country, and I was really drawn to Guide Dogs for the Blind. Obviously, we're the best, and in all seriousness, I was really drawn to sort of how we are the leaders in that positive reinforcement-based training, and I thought it was really special how much support we give clients after graduation. That was something that I really, really loved. And so I applied to be a CWT, and I didn't really have a lot of experience working with people with visual impairments, and that's something really cool that I loved about the apprenticeship. That was such specialized education, like you were talking about, that gave me those skills. And so I was hired as a CWT, and then canine welfare training technician in the kennels, and then a couple years later was hired as an apprentice. And it's kind of funny, the first time I'd even been to California was for the working interview for this job. So it was a big cross-country move, but it was honestly the best decision I've ever made.
We're so great, so happy to have you, Kate. I really and truly mean it. So, talk a little bit about how the apprentice program has, prepared you to work with clients, to address, a variety of needs, problem solve in a variety of different situations, all of which every client, every dog is different.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much to know and to teach when instructing a client, and every single client learns a little bit differently. And so, some clients really benefit from kind of, when they're learning a new concept, really kind of going step by step and taking it in and thinking about it and kind of talking it out with the instructor. And that kind of helps them feel more confident and comfortable when they actually go through the concept. And then other people really like to kind of jump in and learn through action, and that kind of helps them take things in and learn concepts that way. And so knowing what each individual client is going to need in that moment is a skill that takes a lot of hard work and time to develop. But my mentors throughout my entire apprenticeship process were so crucial because they gave me a lot of perspective and advice about these different training tools, and they gave me a lot of, they helped me brainstorm what each individual client would need, which was just an amazing experience.
Can you give us, an example maybe of, situation that you either had to problem solve, or how, one situation is different for another, and that you had to adjust your training technique in order to address it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the first week of class, we have the clients all learn a basic route, and they repeat that basic route throughout that first week. And then, by the end of that first week, the goal is that they're going to be pretty much independent. And so one tool that I really love to use for that route learning process for these clients is called a tactile map. And it's basically a big wooden map of our downtown San Rafael area. And it's so cool. It has these like raised streets and everything is labeled in Braille. And so the clients can actually trace their route and go over it as many times as they need to and think like, okay, this is E Street, I'm going to turn left here. And so they can kind of go through it, and really that helps them visualize it and kind of work it out. And then they can, go and do their route. And they're like, okay, I remember this because this is where I turn. And then other people learn differently, and, sitting in front of a map isn't going to really help them really kind of visualize it. And so other people, if the tactile map isn't really working, I'm like, okay, let's hit the sidewalk. Let's go out and kind of experience it. And for the first route or two, I may kind of give them the directions turn by turn, so this is E Street, this is what this intersection kind of feels like, here's what the curb feels like, here's what it sounds like. And so that kind of helps them kind of go through it and experience it, and then that helps them kind of memorize it through that way. A lot of our clients also, kind of write down step by step the routes and kind of like the turn by turn directions and kind of learn it and take time after the route too to kind of go back through it. So there's a lot of different really cool tools and ways we can help clients learn different things.
That's fantastic. So another question I get asked all the time, does every dog make it through as a guide dog that you train?
No. So just like in class, how we, meet the clients where they are, we also meet the dogs where they are. Not every dog wants to be a guide dog.
Right.
Some of our dogs go on to be really amazing canine buddies, and they are, kind of placed with a client to be a pet or companion, and they are, placed with a client with a visual impairment that may not necessarily need a guide dog for travel. Other dogs go on to be, dogs for diabetics or hearing alert dogs or dogs for people with other disabilities. Not every dog wants the same profession, which totally makes sense, and we like to honor that. But for the dogs that do make it, it is such an incredible experience. It's an amazing feeling because so much, like hard work and dedication and care goes into their training and their development from the time that they were a tiny puppy. And so when they do achieve that goal, you feel so much pride and excitement, especially when you get to see them working with their client and you get to see them doing what they love with their best friend. It's the coolest feeling.
And that is one thing that I give guide dogs a lot of credit for, that we allow the dog to choose their profession, as opposed to forcing the dog to do something that maybe that's not really what their choice would be. So I think the end result of that is that all of our dogs enjoy working. This is, it's exciting for them to get into the harness. It's exciting for them, to get out on the streets or wherever one of our clients wants to go. And that's really what we want to see.
Absolutely.
And the dogs that don't make it through, they go on to bless lives in a variety of different ways, right? So every single one of our dogs is perfect, and every single one of our dogs makes a difference. They just do it in different ways, from that standpoint. So thank you both very much. Really appreciate your time today. We're going to take this time actually to open things up for questions. But, I do, again, just want to emphasize that we do not charge for our services. We receive no government funding, and we are completely dependent upon the support of, our communities, our donors, to make this mission work. So, one, I appreciate and thank all of you for your support. If you are so inclined today to say, you know, I've been inspired today and I really want to support Guide Dogs for the Blind, or I specifically want to support our apprentice program, we're going to give you 3 different ways that you can do that. So for those of you in our virtual audience, there is a donation button at the bottom of your screen. If you'd like to make a donation, you can press that. For those of you here in our studio audience, there's a QR code at the back of your program. You can scan that and then you can make a donation online. Or both of our audiences can text conversations to 50155. So text conversations to 50155, and you can make a gift through that way as well. So on that note, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Larry for questions.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, panel. Are there any questions? We have a lot coming through online. Do we have any questions? We can start with the in-person. Anybody has a question? Okay, well, okay, here we go. Let me walk over. All right, we're having technical difficulties. Is this one working? Hello, hello? No, okay. Question? Testing, testing. Working now?
I think it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Here you go.
I'm interested in that last part you were talking about, where the dog chooses its own profession. Can you say a little more about that? What's that like? How do you do that?
Yeah, well,
Thank you, by the way, for this presentation.
Sure, thank you. That's a great question. So, you know, why don't we just start by, you know, maybe either Kate or Amy, if you can talk about how our guide dogs choose not to be a guide dog. I can then talk about where they go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't take a survey, but they do have, they do have ways to let us know, and I'll let Kate speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we really listen to the dog too, and you know, there's a lot of different reasons that a dog may not make it in the program. It may be a medical issue. You know, we may find something that takes them out of the program. They may just have a little too much interest in smelling things. They may prefer that, you know. They may have a little too much interest in other dogs, or, you know, they may prefer to just be a more like mellow canine buddy type. So we really try to kind of pay attention to what we're seeing while they're in training, and we really listen to what the dog is telling us. Yeah, do you have anything else to add?
I think the only thing I might add is that, you know, I spoke to the complexity of the work, and when you think about the dynamic environments that they're working in, sometimes it might not be a place where the dogs would thrive. You know, they have to have encounters with traffic. You know, they're crossing streets and things like that. So sometimes the dogs opt out for those reasons, but then they can go on to do many other careers that don't involve that element.
Right, right. So, you know, if a dog is career changed from our guide dog program, we do assess them as a potential canine buddy, either for a child or for an individual who is, you know, looking for a companion and doesn't necessarily need a dog for safe travel. And depending upon whether the dog is being assessed for a child or an adult, there's differences there, because kids have a tendency to want to lay on the dog and, you know, cuddle and do, you know, kiss them on the face and all kinds of really wonderful things. So is that something that a dog would be comfortable with? And then we have about 20 different agencies that we work directly with. And those agencies train dogs to be PTSD dogs, wheelchair assist dogs, hearing dogs. We've got search and rescue. So, you know, some of the things that, Kate was saying if you've got a dog that really is high activity and really likes to sniff, maybe search and rescue is what they're destined to do. But, again, those agencies also assess and work with us because if, at the end of the day, the dog would just rather be a pet, then we make certain that they find their best forever home. Yeah.
What is the actual success rate of a guide, a dog becoming an actual paired up guide dog?
Yeah, the success rate's about 43%. 43%. And I will say, too, that is something that we're always looking at. And what I mean by looking at is looking at every single stage in the process that there's a touch point with the dog, and is there a way that we can better support our dogs in making that guide dog decision. So most recently, we've actually done a huge revision of our puppy raising program to focus really more on developing the skills of confidence and resilience, and not so much the skills of can you sit perfectly, can you settle, and having, can you walk perfectly on leash. So, building up sort of the key elements of what it takes to be a guide dog. We're also doing, through our canine research and development department, a lot of research into how better to support the emotional health of our dogs and understanding how to read the emotional health of our dogs. So that, because just as we are, we're all sentient beings, so are our dogs. And how do what are some of those little clues that they're giving us that they may need a little more support here or a little more support there? So we're always looking for ways that we can inch up that success rate, because the more we can inch it up, the more clients we can serve without having to breed more dogs. And that's a goal of ours. Yep.
I suppose your goal is 100%.
Well, I'm struggling here because we're all different, right? But if just as an example, if we could raise that success rate from 43% to 50%, we could serve 100 more clients with guide dogs without having to breed more dogs, and that's significant. That's significant. Yes. Thea perked up at that.
We have a question.
Hello. And so what happens to the dogs as they age out with their partners? Do they come back here to use them for breeding, or where do they go when they no longer can guide there?
Sure. So maybe I'll have Amy talk a little bit about how the retirement decision is made, and then I can talk about what happens after that retirement decision.
Sure. So we have, as we were discussing, a very extensive follow-up and support program at Guide Dogs for the Blind, and a really big component of that is supporting a team as they age and helping prepare clients and the dog for the retirement process. Many of our dogs can work until they're 9, 10, 11 years of age. And we aim to have them go through that process really gracefully. Many clients are able to adopt their dogs, and they may have a multiple dog household actually when they come back and get another dog. And we love to see that as well. And then some folks are able to place their dog with a friend or family member. And then there's also a special place in my heart for the scenarios where a client isn't able to keep their dog, And the dog comes back to GDB, and then we have a wonderful dog placement department. And there's a special place in my heart for this because I've adopted several retired guides over the years, I think up to 4, at all different ages, but I love those seniors. And so regardless of where those dogs retire, they enjoy the life of a wonderful companion with wonderful care. Our veterinary financial assistance program that clients are able to take advantage of continues if they keep their retired guides, and that's a wonderful thing as well. Did I answer your question?
You did. You did perfectly. I'll just add that the average working life of our dogs is about 8.5 years. So, and oftentimes too, if one of our clients is not able to keep their dog, and the dog does come back to Guide Dogs for the Blind, oftentimes they go back to their puppy raiser as well.
Full circle moment.
I know, I'm tearing up. I couldn't say that. Yes, full circle. So there you go.
Let me quickly address a question online, and I'm going to combine 2. And this is about training and instructional methods and how things are changing, especially with the increase in soundless electric scooters and electric bicycles and more electric cars. How have training methods changed over the years?
Ooh, that's a good one, and I'm going to kick that one to Kate because we've got some really cool methods that we use to teach the dogs to respond to movement.
Yeah, so over the years, a lot of training methods have changed. We're moving more towards positive reinforcement, and I think GDB has really been a wonderful leader in kind of taking on different training methods and trying different things. You want to take the other part?
Do you want to talk about kind of the MOST program?
Sure, absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So one thing that's really cool about our traffic training program is we start with kind of a big, it's called a backup board, and we use that to kind of help teach the dog to back up when something is coming towards them. So it kind of helps them learn what to do when they are experiencing, like needing to get their client kind of out of the way. And so it's basically a big wooden board that we move towards the dog, and then the dog takes a step back and we reward them for that. And so it's kind of helping them learn like, oh, okay, like this is a game, I back up, and so it's kind of helping them kind of get that like motion and that backwards movement into their heads. And so, and then we kind of, slowly, incrementally kind of take that up a step, and we include a car, like with a big buffer backing them up, and so we're helping them with the leash, and we're clicking and rewarding them for that behavior. And so that's kind of how we are able to teach them that safety around a car.
Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that will be a generalized skill to anything that's kind of in motion. So that can transfer to shopping carts and the scooters, and here comes the skateboard and a bicyclist and all of those things as well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We have a question from our in-person audience.
Hello. I was interested in the postgraduate dog training, maintaining the skill set, and about how often you offer tutorials to the dog and the handler.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So our follow-up program is very extensive, and we also have a support center that offers remote support by phone Monday through Friday through business hours. So a client can always call and get advice over the phone. And then annually, we offer in-person support. Certainly for the first 2 years after someone graduates, we'll send somebody out. And then thereafter, if things are going well and the client's like, you know what, let's just chat on the phone. That sounds great too. Once the dogs turn about 9 years of age, we start resuming those in-person visits, and that really helps them prepare for that graceful retirement that I was talking about. So We also offer, all of our lecture materials that people study in class. Those are on our website too. So those are just a continuous resource. Clients often refer back to those. We also have periodic, I don't know if we call them webinars, Chris, but through our alumni association, there can be ongoing education and discussion. But every single touch point that a client has with guide dogs can be considered continuing education. So we give everybody a super solid foundation when they come into class. It's a very intensive program for 2 weeks, and then they continuously keep building on those skills. Also, there's a lot of customizing that goes on with clients in their home areas, and so every time an instructor comes out to visit, they're planting little seeds about, hey, let's refine this technique, or that looks amazing, and they're reinforcing those skills, and then they're also going to help prepare the client for transitioning to a successor dog who doesn't actually know about all the things they've customized with their current dog. So that's what that process is like. Did I answer your question? Yes. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. And I just might want to add to, again, I'm bragging on Guide Dogs for the Blind because our focus is not just getting our client across the line to graduation. Our focus is making certain that that team is successful for the life of that team. So we have the most extensive follow-up program of any guide dog program in the world. And as a result, our dogs actually are working longer because of that. Those teams are together successfully working longer because of it.
Thank you. An online question, a quick one. We talked about how many apprentices we have. How many total guide dog mobility instructors do we have at Guide Dogs for the Blind?
Yeah, we have between 55 and 60 guide dog mobility instructors that include all of our apprentices as well.
Great. We have another question in person.
Is there a waiting list for the dogs, for those who want a dog?
There is a waiting list for getting a guide dog. And COVID was not our friend, I'll be honest with you, because during the COVID years, because of social distancing, we were only able to train half as many clients as we would normally train in a year. So we're still working through some of that backlog. Our wait time right now, just depending upon what day you ask me, is somewhere between 12 and 15 months. Yeah.
We have time for maybe another question or two. An online question about dog training. Are all dogs trained for the same things, such as riding public transportation, if their guide work may not involve public transportation? How does that work?
Yeah, I can take that one. So all of our dogs go through the same training, and they all have the same expectations and kind of benchmarks that we go through. So we like to have the dogs be exposed to all of these different things that the client might encounter, such as that public transportation, escalators, riding a train, things like that. We like to give them those experiences because we never know sometimes early in training what client they're going to be matched with, and so we like them to be prepared. And that also gives us a lot of good information about where the dog might be best matched. And so, we train them for all of the same things, and then later on in training, once we may have a match in mind, we may do a little bit more personalized training based on what that client is going to need. Like if they have a specific type of public transportation, we may expose the dog to that as well because we know where they're going to end up and we want to prepare them the best for that.
That's great. One quick question and then I'll hand it back to you, Chris, to close us out. How many dogs and people does a trainer work with at any one time?
The trainers usually have a group of 4 dogs that they're training at one time, and then on a team we have usually 2 to 4 trainers, and so we're working, 2 routes per day with 4 dogs. So that goes kind of back to what Amy was talking about. It's a very physically demanding job, so we have four dogs usually at a time.
Right. thank you. Chris, I'm going to turn this over to you.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. We're going to close out today with a lovely video of our friend who's actually here in the audience, Mr. Eric Holmes, talking about his experience going through our program.
Logo, Guide Dogs for the Blind.
Good morning. My name is Eric Holm, and I'm here with my lovely guide dog, Daxton. We're on the campus of the Guide Dogs for the Blind in San Rafael, California. The matching process with guide dogs is absolutely magical. They take into account all of the different aspects of your life, your motion, your personality, where you work, where you like to travel. The day they presented Daxton to me, they wanted me to do a route just to see how we would actually click together for the very first time meeting. I picked up Dax's handle and we flew.
Eric and Daxton take a walk with a guide dog instructor.
It was just exquisite. Everything about it was perfect. He is just amazing. Daxton is my third guide dog. I had Ford, Amarillo, and still have Amarillo, and now Daxton. So that's been 3 training experiences here at GDB.
Eric receives instructions while stopped at a sidewalk curb.
So the trainers are all amazing individuals. They're caring, they're observant, they really know what they're doing, and it's just so reassuring, especially with the new dog, to have somebody that's watching out for all of the little idiosyncrasies that even I might not have been aware of.
Daxton locates a bench for Eric in a park while their instructor looks on.
In every case, I've been truly blessed with all 3 dogs and all of my trainers. GDB is amazing, not only in training the dogs and preparing us to be with the dogs, but their whole support system is just wonderful.
Close-up of Daxton guiding Eric.
They stay in touch. Anytime you have an issue, you can pick up the phone, call them. So it's a very, very hands-on and caring program. It's wonderful. I feel truly blessed to have guide dogs in my life. It has been a huge difference. And I really appreciate everyone who takes part in this wonderful labor of love.
Daxton smiles while Eric pets him.
And strongly encourage anyone who can to help financially in keeping this program going.
Logo, Guide Dogs for the Blind.
Yay. And thank you to all of you, both in our studio audience and our virtual audience, for joining us today. And thank you so much for your support, because we could not do what we do without you. And before we go, just a quick reminder, we have our holiday luncheon, our holiday fundraiser luncheon, that will take place in San Francisco on December 13th. What's exciting is that we took a 5-year hiatus from that luncheon because of our friend Mr. COVID. We're so excited actually to be coming back. Again, it'll be our 48th luncheon. I hope you'll all join us. The tickets are still available, and if anybody's interested in the sponsorship, sponsorships are available as well. Thank you all very much. Thank you. So for those of you in the audience, we've got just a couple of quick announcements.